What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Good. We are back. We are finally back. We had a week off there. We had some technical difficulties, so we couldn't get it up and going, but that's okay because we're right here. This is Matt's Big 12 Blitz. If you guys haven't been on here yet, let me just give you a rundown. We'll go over Big 12 football games. We'll go over some games from last week. Always pick 5. And then after we go over the games from last week, we'll move forward to tomorrow's games and check those out. And then we'll go into my predictions for tomorrow. If you already couldn't tell, since West Virginia next weekend, not tomorrow, next weekend, they are having their Coal Rush blackout game, and I just got this in the mail, so I thought I would sport it for today's show. It's pretty sweet, pretty nice. I'm excited for it. Can't wait. I actually can't wait to get a jersey. The jerseys look pretty sweet, so excited to get one of those. But hey, I'm glad to be back. I have missed talking college football and especially Big 12. But hey, we've had some crazy games. We've had some upsets. Some performances here that completely blew my mind. I would assume it probably blew everyone else's minds as well, except for the fans of those teams, right? So before we get started here, I just ask that you guys, please, if you're watching and you can see that thumbs up down below, hit that thumbs up for me. Like the video. I greatly appreciate it. It means the world to me. And we'll get this thing going. So as I said, the first thing we do is we're going to go over the games from last week, and we'll move right into it. Don't be afraid to comment, by the way. Throw some comments on here. That's what this show is all about, having a discussion, a conversation about some Big 12 football. So I welcome the comments. Have some conversations with me about what you think about the Big 12 or about the games that we'll be speaking about. So let's go into it. The first game we're going to talk about here is Texas Tech moving to 4-1 after their small margin of victory over Cincinnati, 44-41, pushing Cincinnati to 3-2 on the season. Cincinnati impressed me, to be honest with you. I didn't know what I was going to expect from this game. And, give it to Texas Tech for pulling it out. But let me throw the stats down here at the bottom on the ticker. There you go. You got, I kind of thought, I said in my last show, I was going to say last week, I forgot. I just said we missed last week. In my last show, I was talking about how Texas Tech probably had things turned around and was playing pretty good football. And so this was kind of a test of that to see where they were at. And I wasn't confident. I did choose Texas Tech to win. I wasn't very confident in that pick. And hey, again, this was an awesome game. Give it up to Texas Tech for pulling it out, 44-41. Morton, 19 of 29, 251 yards and 2 touchdowns for Texas Tech. Brooks taking 32 carries for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, give it to that guy. Workhorse, right? And that's some it takes some doing to do that. And that surprises me, being that WVU is playing Oklahoma State tomorrow. We haven't seen those kind of numbers from Ollie Gordon yet this year, which is very surprising. Their offensive line is having some trouble. And, of course, Alan Bowman's throwing the ball a lot, and he's getting a lot of yards. But he's had a few mistakes the past couple of weeks here. But, Brooks, give it up to him. 32 carries. Anytime you carry the ball more than, I would say, about 20 times, that's a workhorse. And he's definitely going to be icing after the game on that one. But he comes out of there with 2 touchdowns as well. And then you go over to the Cincinnati side, Sorsby, 31 of 45, 426 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. You got Henderson out on the outside with 7 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Man, what a game. Texas Tech moving to 4-1, beating Cincinnati 44-41. That was a fantastic game. Outlaw of college football. Where is Coos? So Coos does his Coos's Corner. We're going to have him on. We're going to have to – he said he was going to come on here for some episodes. So we're going to get him on here eventually. I don't know when yet. Of course, he does his Coos's Corner shows, and he asked me to come on here and run a show covering the Big 12 football. So I was like, absolutely, I would love to do that. In case if we got some new people in here, let me just give you a quick rundown of who I am. My name is Matt Thornsberry. I was a sports writer for the Associated Press and Sports Illustrated for 7 years in Morgantown. Covered a lot of football, a lot of Big 12 football, a lot of Big 12 basketball, some soccer, some baseball. I did it all. So yeah, and Coos asked me if I could hop on here and do a show. Of course, who doesn't love talking football? So yeah, that's where he's at. We're going to get him on here eventually. But I appreciate you hopping in here. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's again, guys, throw some comments in here. We're talking about all these games from last week, and after we talk about these, again, we'll move into tomorrow's games. But throw some comments in here. If you watched some of the games we speak about, give me your input. So, Outlaw of College, I will link you out to some groups, my college football brother. Hey, I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that, dude. But yeah, hey, let's keep it rolling, right? Texas Tech, again, getting the win 44-41 over Cincinnati. Great game, great game. Now, this was a big surprise for me, this next game. Maybe not for some people, maybe not for, I'm going to spoil who I'm talking about here, maybe not for Colorado fans, right? I guess they probably knew that they had it coming. It's not okay golf. What's up, Matt and folks? What's up, man? Glad to have you in here. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being in here. We're talking some Big 12 college football. And we just got off Texas Tech beating Cincinnati last week, 44-41. We're moving forward to Colorado. Colorado. Surprise of the week for me. I would say that K-State and OK State was a surprise, which it was. But I got to tell you, the Colorado 48-21 over UCF was a big one for me. I did not expect them to get past UCF. That was mind-blowing to me. I thought UCF was playing good football. I thought that they would be too much for Colorado. And shoot, man, I guess that that wasn't the case. Apparently, I haven't been paying attention too much. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you guys see that coming? Did you expect a close game? What did you guys expect from Colorado? Because, like I said, the last few weeks on my shows, I did not expect this. Actually, this is one of the games I predicted last week, and I got it wrong. Unfortunately, I went 2-3 on my picks this past week, so that moved me to 10-5 on the year. And, of course, it just had to be this game. Colorado moving to 4-1, and that dropped UCF. That was their first loss, so that dropped them to 3-1. Hey, Shedeur Sanders keeping up the pace, man. Still doing what he's been doing all year, 28-35. Super consistent, very accurate, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Gabe Rossi said, is Colorado a playoff team, and do you think the NCAA wants them to be? Ooh, that's 2 good questions. One, do I think that they are a playoff team? I do not. I don't. I thought that UCF was possibly going to turn into a playoff team, but now I don't know. But you look at Colorado. I mean, they're sitting at what I say, 4-1. Yeah, 4-1 right now, and with a solid. That is a quality win over Gus Malzahn and UCF. So you got to give it to Dion and Colorado. That's solid. So that was definitely a resume builder, but. Let me look at their schedule here. Who do they have? They have Kansas State next, then Arizona, then Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. There's no way. I believe they will. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I see at least 3 more losses in their schedule. And I believe that would put them out of playoff contention. But as far as NCAA wanting them to be, they absolutely want them to be. There's no doubt about it. And I think everybody would agree with that. I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching this right now would agree with that. Whenever the media gets a chance to throw some Colorado highlights into the mix, they're going to. It doesn't matter who they play or what they do. They're going to throw that in there. So I definitely believe that they want them to be. Again, though, I mean, if they after that they put up 48 points against UCF. I mean, if they go and beat K-State, who's 4-1 and 20th, ranked 20th, they'll be on a run, right? That'll be 3, 4. That'll be 4 in a row that they'll win if they beat Kansas State in Colorado. And that's the only reason I'm kind of giving them the leeway here. They have the offense to win. It just comes down to how well their defense plays and if they can continue to execute at a Big 12 level. And they have a chance of beating K-State next week, and they have home field advantage playing on their side. So if they can win that game, man, they're going to be on a run. And maybe those 3 losses I was talking about won't turn into losses after being on a run like that, getting a win over UCF. 3 straight wins. Let's just say that. That would be 3 straight wins to open Big 12 play for Colorado. If they get that win in Colorado against Kansas State, they would be going to Arizona to try to beat Arizona, and that's going to be a very tough game. Now, I thought Arizona had fallen off. I didn't think they had anything left, but hey, they came out and beat Utah this past week. So, give props to them. Of course, Utah's still without Cam Rising. And I said it a couple weeks ago, Utah is still a solid team without Cam Rising because they still have Wilson, who's a great quarterback, but he's not Cam Rising. And unfortunately, their offense just isn't the same without Cam Rising. And I said it a couple weeks ago again that if they didn't have Cam Rising, they were going to lose some games. I don't think they would have lost that game last week if they would have had Rising, but you never know. So yeah, that's a good question, Gabe. Good questions. So yeah, we'll just run through the stats here real quick. I already said Sanders' stats. You got Shepard with 4 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown. UCF side, Jefferson, he's still playing good football. He's had some good Big 12 games. Everyone was talking about how he was performing really well. He was 20 of 35, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Harvey, 4 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. So, again, Colorado moves to 4-1, beating UCF, handing them their first loss. 48-21 was the final. So, good for them. Moving forward. BYU in a close one. Now, this was another shocker to me. Let's see. Thunder OU Sooner. Hey, thank you for joining the show, man. Blanking out here. Thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for throwing the comment in there, too. West Virginia better beat Oklahoma State because Oklahoma State is not great. They don't even have a running game. Ollie Gordon is not the same player from last year. Yeah, it's, a lot of experts are calling this game a get-right game for Oklahoma State. And it's weird. I said it when West Virginia played Kansas that that game was such a dichotomy because on one side you had Kansas their defense was playing well, but their offense wasn't playing too good, right? And over on West Virginia's side, the defense was playing terribly and the offense was playing okay. I think it's the same type of situation against the Cowboys tomorrow. It's such a dichotomy because Oklahoma State, their defense is a little bit suspicious. West Virginia's defense is suspicious. And then you got Alan Bowman, who the last 2 weeks, I mean, he's played great. I'm not taking anything away from him. Alan Bowman has played great. But the last 2 weeks, he's had some questionable throws, and he's thrown some interceptions, some timely interceptions that has cost them. So, tomorrow's game is going to be very interesting. And in my prediction, I even said that I don't know who is going to show up for either team because they're both really good teams. So this is the thing. They're both teams that should be competing for the top of the Big 12. I mean, you have about 4 or 5 teams that have the ability to compete for that Big 12 title this year. And Oklahoma State and West Virginia are in a spot right now where they haven't competed nearly to the level that they should have. And so it's kind of a game of proving grounds for both of them against each other, right? So it's going to be an interesting game. I think really it comes down to, unfortunately, I think it comes down to who is coached better. And it's hard to go against Mike Gundy. And in my prediction, that was my determining factor. I just think that Gundy is going to outcoach Neil Brown. But we'll see. We'll see. Outlaw of College Football said, Con time, Deion Sanders and his son, Sakazula Sanders, were 4-1 this time last year. Pump the brakes. I linked you out to about 15 groups. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And I agree with that statement. I'm not, of course, you heard what I said. I see about 3 more losses in the future on their schedule. So, they're not a playoff team in my eyes. I just think that they performed really well against UCF, surprised a lot of people. Same thing they did last year, right? First game of the season. Who was it they beat? Was it TCU? Yeah, TCU surprised a lot of people. They had a ton of hype. And then what'd they do? Skunked. So, I mean, I'm in a healthy spot with Colorado. I know. We've seen this before, right? So, yeah. K-State ran right over Oklahoma State. Thunder Sooner said, Alan Bowman is an interception machine. Oklahoma State back up, or this is bad as Alan Bowman right now. Yeah. Oh, the backup quarterbacks are just as bad or worse as Alan Bowman. Yeah. Yeah, he's played real questionable the last 2 weeks. So it's I don't know, man. Tomorrow's game is going to be, I don't know what to expect. It was kind of the same thing for Oklahoma State last weekend. They go out and get beat by 22 against Kansas State. So I don't know. Both teams are on the same level right now of unpredictability. We don't know what's going to happen. So Kelly McCourt, thank you so much, Kelly, for joining the show. Thank you for throwing that comment in there. She said, since you mentioned losses, how many losses do you see for West Virginia? So before the season started, of course, we have our Big 12 predictions for West Virginia, and I predicted them to, at the beginning of the season, I predicted them to be 9-3. I mean, now I'm not. Of course, we all didn't know and expect the defense to be this bad. We didn't expect that. So I kind of had to go and evaluate it again and be like, okay, let's look at this again. And of course, we're in this spot where there are some teams that are now, they were performing well. And then this past weekend, I was like, well, hold on a second. Who's who? Like Kansas State going out and beating Oklahoma State 42-20. I did not expect that at all. And then you got Texas Tech going and playing Cincinnati and winning 44-41. So I just don't know. But when I look at the schedule for West Virginia, of course, they play Oklahoma State tomorrow. My prediction, I usually hold my predictions for the end of the show, but I'll go ahead and say in my prediction, I had them losing tomorrow to Oklahoma State. So there's one right off the rip, and that would get them to 2-3. Then they play Iowa State next weekend, but it's a home game. Then they play Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, and Texas Tech. They have to win this weekend or next weekend. They have to. Now, I can see them winning tomorrow. I can see them winning tomorrow. My prediction, of course, everybody knows this. My prediction is just a prediction. They have the ability to win tomorrow. So if they can win tomorrow, next weekend's if they lose, it won't be as bad. Now, would I rather lose tomorrow and then win next weekend or win both? Absolutely, because Iowa State's ranked. And so I would much rather win next weekend's game. And it's a home game again. So, but when I look at it, and you just don't know which West Virginia team is going to show up. I just can't stand that. They're so unpredictable. I see at least 1, 2, 3, probably at least 3 more losses for WVU. I would say at least 3. I'm going to say maybe 4, but at least 3. So they're teetering on the edge right now of going 7-5 and 6-6 because we didn't know the defense was going to be this bad. So Bagman said, "Thank you, Bagman, for joining the show, man. I really appreciate it." Throwing a comment in there. He said, "Who has the best tight end room coach in the Big 12? My team got to get rid of ours after this season." So you want to know who to pick up. That's a good question. There's a few teams, and honestly, not many teams in the Big 12 run tight ends as much as others, I should say. But to be honest with you, West Virginia's tight end room is pretty solid. They've had a pretty solid tight end room for the last, I would say, about 4 or 5 years. Would I call them the best? Probably not. Yeah. So Outlaw said BYU only needed a power label to awaken the sleeping giant. Dude, yeah. BYU was the last G5 to win a natty in 1984 and have a huge Mormon fan base. Hey, I appreciate the $5, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much. That's freaking great. Yeah, man. Gabe said, I remember you said BYU was looking good in the beginning of the year, and man, has that held up. I was not a believer then, but they keep on rolling. Timothy Green, great show, my friend. Good job. Keep up the good work. Thank you, dude. I really, really appreciate you guys hopping in here and throwing these comments in there. That means a ton to me. It's just awesome. It's so awesome. Gabe said, yeah, I remember you said BYU. Yeah, I said it from the start. BYU, when I seen their game against give me just a second. When I seen their game against Kansas State, when I seen them beat Kansas State 38-9, I knew that BYU was for real. That defense, that BYU defense, it's going to hold up. I see them they'll probably beat Arizona next weekend. It's a home game. Man, BYU has a strong chance at winning the Big 12 this year. And who knew that? They were picked to be in the bottom of the Big 12. Now, of course, it's like Outlaw said, BYU only needed a power label to awaken the sleeping giant. So, I mean, you're completely right. You're completely right. And I was telling somebody the other day, if you go back, BYU has always been a pretty decent team. They have some down years, but then they come right back and have always had a decent team. If you go back a couple years ago when West Virginia opened the season against them, was that the year that we had Will Greer and David Sills, maybe? I think we barely beat them. I mean, I think the score was like 38-35. And ever since that game, man, I was a believer in BYU. I was like, they are tough. They are solid. So yeah, gotta hand it to BYU, man. Bagman said, I like to drop by from time to time. Absolutely, man. Timothy Green, I know it's a long shot, but I still think West Virginia can win the Big 12. Yeah, I think it's a possibility, but that defense has a long way to go, man, before we can before they can even think about that, unfortunately. So, all right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's roll in the next week. So let me mention this again. BYU again staying undefeated and barely pulling out that win against Baylor, 34-28 last weekend. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get into tomorrow's games here. So let me go through these games real quick. Next game was Kansas State, number 23 Kansas State, moving to 4-1 and getting that big win over number 20 Oklahoma State, 42-20. Dude, this one was I knew somebody told me that Oklahoma State's defense was sus. And I knew that, but also excuse me. Also, they played Utah and Cam Rising didn't play. I know. But still, their defense played decently well that game. I didn't expect. Again, Kansas State, they allowed 38 against BYU. So I won't say that this surprised me. I'm going to say that it just the such a large margin of victory for Kansas State is what surprised me. I did not expect a total beatdown. Goodness gracious. For Kansas State, you had Johnson, 19-31, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. He's always had some big hype coming into this year, and he's been playing really well. Give it up to the kid. Giddens, 15 carries, 187 yards, and a touchdown. Move over to Alan Bowman. He's putting up big numbers this year, but he's throwing too many interceptions. 26 of 50. He's not been too accurate either. 364 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Stribling, 7 receptions, 157 yards, a touchdown. And I threw Ollie Gordon in there because he's just been struggling this year, as I said earlier. And I don't know if it's the O-line, it's just a mix of O-line problems. And I don't know. To me, he just don't look like he's running the same. That's my opinion, though. I don't know. Maybe you guys are seeing something different. So, yeah. All right. So, like I said, we're just going to get through these quick. Let me check the comments. Outlaw said, good stuff. If you want to be a guest on my show so I can help push you, holler at me. I'm a bit edgy, but don't let the weak sauce podcaster scare you away from me. No, man, I definitely would love that. Absolutely. I try to expand my horizons as much as possible. Absolutely would love to be on there, man. Just holler at me anytime, for sure. All right, let's get through this final game here. This was a big one. Arizona moving to 3-1, getting the big time win over Utah, giving them their first loss, 23-10. Man, yeah, you're talking about coming out of the grave, kind of for Arizona, because there were a lot of people, experts, talking about how there were a good number of people putting Arizona in the top, I would say, like 3 of the Big 12 before the season started. But then, of course, if you were paying attention, they lost a lot of people to the portal, the transfer portal, and then it just started dropping. And, the season started, and hold on just a second. Who was it? And the season started, they beat New Mexico, but, they gave up 39 points. And that game was close for a long time. And, of course, they ended up eventually widening the gap. And they come out with it 61-39. And then they beat Northern Arizona 22-10. And then they lost to K-State 31-7. But after losing to K-State 31-7, they came back and beat Utah 23-10. Again, do I see that happening with Cam Rising playing? No. I believe that Utah wins that game if Cam Rising's playing. It's just, again, that's my opinion. So, Outlaw said, will the Big 12 get 2 bids to the playoffs or 1? Well, being that they've moved it to an expanded playoff, I don't know, because if BYU continues to play the way they're playing, Iowa State continues playing the way they're playing, Cam Rising comes back for Utah, I don't think K-State keeps it up. I think they stumble a few times. And I don't think Oklahoma State is going to make it there. I think it's possible, yeah. Gabe said, I think Big 12 gets 2 bids in, but by a hair. Yeah, I think I agree. Because you're going to have 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 teams that could make a run for that, for the 2 bids. So I think it's possible. It's just hard. We don't know what the committee's going to do. They've been so inconsistent with the 14 playoff. I don't know what they're going to do yet with this expanded playoff. I don't know. So it's that's a really good question, though. That's a very good question. It's hard to predict what the committee's going to do. If my opinion, I believe that they probably will get 2 bids. And if BYU continues to play the way they're playing, they will be 1, and Iowa State will be the other. The automatic G5 spot may screw the Big 12 out of 2. That's what I was thinking. Was the automatic bid will probably screw that. So that's why I don't think it would happen, because, and again, I don't know how the committee is going to do this. I don't know. But if they do get 2 bids, it will probably be BYU and Iowa State. Again, I don't know about Utah, because we got to see what happens when Cam Rising comes back. Now, my opinion might change on that. I might interchange BYU for Utah, and it'd be Iowa State and Utah. So, yeah. Okay, let's continue going. Let's roll into next week's games. Let's do it. All right. First game. And it's not going to be until 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Woo. Texas Tech, 4-1 Texas Tech at 3-1 Arizona. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Right now, BetUS has the spread. Arizona at 6.5. The over-under is 64. Before we go into that, I do want to answer this. Outlaw said James Madison, UNLV, or someone else for the G5 playoff spot. Dude, I love that question because, one, UNLV is awesome. Now, I hate what's happened with our quarterback situation and everything like that, but that backup looked like a baller too. Gabe said UNLV, but pump your brakes. Hold your horses. James Madison, dude, who has watched James Madison this year? Because they put up 66 points against North Carolina. Now, I'm not saying, that's not saying much. And I was kind of like, wow. But then the next week, hold on just a second. Let me go to where's it at? Here it is. They put up 70. They put up 70 against North Carolina. They beat North Carolina 70-50. That is insane. But yeah, they are 4-0 right now. And not only did they beat North Carolina 70-50, they came back the next week and beat Ball State 63-70 or 63-7. I'm sorry. And honestly, who's going to beat them? Maybe Coastal Carolina. Maybe. They're going to beat UL Monroe. But they're playing Coastal Carolina at James Madison. Oh, they play at Georgia Southern. Who else do they play? Oh, they play at Appy State too. So definitely some tough games left for them. But I believe James Madison. Ooh, Boise State. Outlaw says Boise State. Ooh, I forgot about Boise State. Ah, they're playing really well too. That's tough. Um, yeah, Gabe said Boise State has the best running back in the country. Dude, he's looking like Ollie Gordon from last year. Dude's balling out, and that's what's going to put Boise State up there. Man, I don't know. You got the quarterback situation at UNLV, like Gabe said, it looks like it lit a fire under the rest of the team. Yeah, and that backup quarterback looked really good. So they're playing good. Boise State and the running back and that running back's looking great. Uh, that's James Madison's offense is looking like a well-oiled machine. You just don't know who's going to take that G5 spot right now. But I'm going to have to say that my pick currently would probably be, oh man, it's a toss-up between James Madison and Boise State. And it comes down who has the better defense. And since James Madison allowed 50 against North Carolina, it's probably going to lean more towards Boise State. So let's come back to that question next week. We're gonna continue revisiting that question each week because that's a really good question. That is a very good question. All right, back to this. Texas Tech going up against Arizona on Fox tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Again, the spread has Arizona at 6.5. Now, it is at Arizona, so that's going to be tough for Texas Tech. But again, Texas Tech is putting up big numbers on offense. I think it comes down to the same thing with Oklahoma State and West Virginia. Defense. What's Texas Tech's defense going to look like? What's Arizona's defense going to look like? Their defenses looked pretty solid, last week. So we'll see what it looks like. I think that, like someone said, Gabe said, I have Arizona too, but it should be a good game. Should be. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know. Being that it's in Arizona, Arizona is probably going to pull this one out. Fafita, the quarterback, great quarterback. So he's playing really well. And so I think that Arizona's defense is good enough to get them by Texas Tech for sure. I think that's a good call, Gabe. I think it's a very solid call. Yeah. What about the rest of you guys? What do you guys think? Who are you taking in Texas Tech and Arizona? I have my prediction, but I give my predictions at the end. So we'll go over that. It's going to be a good one. A team of 2 one-loss teams coming off really solid wins. Again, Texas Tech getting the win of 44-41 over Cincinnati. But Arizona, if you're Arizona, you're riding high right now. You got to win over a top 10 team of Utah. I mean, they didn't have their starting quarterback, but so what? You still got that. So, yeah, I think it's not okay. Goss said, Arizona game feels like it could go either way. It's a long trip for these boys. Yeah, it's definitely a game that could go either way. I don't know how well Texas Tech's defense is. And I think that Arizona's quarterback, Fafita, I think he is I think he might eat up Texas Tech's defense. So I guess we'll see. We will see. And of course, I'm giving the slight edge to Arizona because it's going to be in Arizona. So anytime you go away in the Big 12, I've said this on other shows, anytime you go away in the Big 12, and it's like this in any major conference, right? Anytime you go away, you're looking at a very, very tough game to win and possibly a loss. I don't care who it is in the Big 12. You could play anyone in the Big 12. If you're playing an away game, you best be on your P's and Q's because you just never know. You never know. And the Big 12 is good top to bottom, with the exception of like Houston right now. Houston is struggling bad. And Kansas is struggling, but there's still a team that can beat anybody on any given Saturday. in the Big 12. They have the team to do it. So, all right, let's keep moving forward. Moving forward. I'm looking forward to this one because I want to see UCF, 3-1 UCF at 2-2 Florida. It's tomorrow at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time on SEC Network. Now, Florida's not your typical Florida. Okay, they're not playing too well this year. So I fully expect UCF to win this game. I'm curious about it because I want to see how UCF responds after losing to Colorado the way they did last week. I mean, anytime you give up 48 points, you got to be hot, right? I mean, it's just not something that you can do. To be honest, I was half listening there, and I think I misheard the wrong game. Didn't realize we were talking Texas Tech at Arizona. I assumed it was our boys at Arizona in a few weeks. I should pay better attention. It's all right, man. It's okay. No problem. But yeah, anytime you give up 48 points, you need to come back the next week with a vengeance and ready to play. And being that they're playing, in-state rival Florida, I believe they're going to be ready to put a beat down on Florida. BetUS has the line right now at UCF 1.5 and the over/under 62. I believe UCF wins this one by at least 10 points. I'm thinking like 3 touchdowns. To be honest with you, I'm thinking like 21 or more because I don't believe Florida's that great this year. So I believe that Gus Malzahn will get these boys back on track. He's got a great team. I just think last weekend they, laid a dud. They just went in there thinking that to be honest with you, I think it was more of a respect thing. I don't think that they respected Colorado, and nobody is right now, of course. There's not many teams that are respecting them. And I think that they just went into that game not respecting them, and they got punched in the mouth. So it's a different weekend for UCF, and they're going. I'll say this: it'll be good for their resume, even if Florida comes out this year and wins only 5 or 6 games. It's still hard to go into the swamp and beat Florida, and it still looks good on your resume to go into Florida and win. So, and by the margin that they win too, that'll be a key factor. So pay attention to that. All right, let's keep going. Keep it rolling. Next game, Arizona State, 3-1 Arizona State versus 1-4 Kansas. This game is tomorrow at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time on ESPN2. Arizona State right now, BetUS has Arizona State at 2.5. Over under 51. This one's interesting because Kansas, another team that was picked to be in the top half of the Big 12, is now 1-4 on the season, and their offense is struggling bad. I do not believe. Of course, people did not expect their offense to be playing this bad. You got Neal at running back, great running back, and he's doing awesome. I mean, I think he's had over 100 yards rushing in every single game so far, in all 5 games of the season so far. But the problem comes in at quarterback. Daniels is having a very tough time passing the ball this year. I mean, he's not even been accurate. He's thrown interceptions. I mean, at least, Alan Bowman is at least he's getting up numbers. He's putting up 300, 400-yard games, and he's played really well. He's just had some really bad interceptions. But Daniels is just not – he hasn't been accurate. He hasn't read defenses too good at all. I mean – they're a one-dimensional offense right now with Neal at running back. And if Daniels doesn't get it figured out back there in the backfield, Kansas probably will not turn things around this year, unfortunately for them, especially after the season they had last year. So, everyone thought that Kansas was serious, and they were. They were a team to be reckoned with last year. You you didn't want to go into Kansas last year undefeated, high hopes, because they had all the abilities in the world last year to squash you. And it's just been a whole different ball game this year. And again, it goes back to the quarterback play. Daniels is just having a really tough time. So, yeah. And Arizona State on the other side. Arizona State has played pretty well. Give it up to them. Another team that people were picking to be at the lower half of the Big 12 this year. Some experts putting them last. So, you got to give it up to them. They beat, 48-7 over Wyoming. They beat Mississippi State. Of course, Mississippi State having a down year too. But SEC team, they get a win there, 30-23. Then they beat Texas State, who is actually pretty solid this year. And then they lost to Texas Tech 30-22, which was a great game. But I think this is a big game for Arizona State. They're playing home against Kansas, and you're looking at a Kansas team, again, who's trying to turn things around. And so if you're Arizona State, you cannot take your foot off the pedal, because K-State's looking for any game right now to get their morale back up. And if they can go into enemy territory and get a win, that could be something to flip their season around. So Arizona State needs to watch themselves. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that Kansas goes into this game and probably beats Arizona State. Yeah. All right. Moving forward, let's go. Next game. I love Iowa State. I've been riding high on Iowa State all season. Matt Campbell's a fantastic coach. He's doing great things at Iowa State. I mean, you got to give it to him. He's got the Cyclones at 4-0, ranked 16th in the country, and they'll be playing at home against Baylor tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. And right now, BetUS has Iowa State at 11.5, and the over/under is 45. Again, the Cyclones, man, and I've said this every week. I've said this on every show. Matt Campbell has these Cyclones playing fantastic football. They do not beat themselves. They are so fundamentally sound. When you watch an Iowa State football game, you're going to watch a great football team. And they are doing it week in and week out. And you got to, it's great football. And he's been doing that ever since he's been at Iowa State, man. I think he's been building up that program greatly. So yeah, Baylor's got one to reckon with there, especially going into Iowa State. Very tough place to win. Place gets loud. And those boys play good at home. So, I'm not going to be on this one too long. Like, I think Iowa State does what they're supposed to and beats Baylor handily. BetUS has them 11.5, probably more than that. I would say that's a pretty good line for Iowa State. So, yeah, I love Iowa State. And when Iowa State's good, I like saying this. When Iowa State's good, and Kansas State's good, and TCU's good, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. Of course, West Virginia, but I'm just saying right now, in the Big 12, when those 5 teams are good, I love Big 12 football when those 5 teams are good. Because typically, when those guys are playing good football, it's always a good, fantastic football game. You're always watching fundamentally sound football, and you'll never be disappointed watching those games when those teams are good. Of course, that can be with any team, though. I'm just saying, for me personally, I love when those 5 teams are playing good football. And so, yeah, I'm ready to watch Iowa State play Baylor, especially after Baylor only lost 34-28 to BYU. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting BYU to crush Baylor. And, hey, Baylor had something to prove, man. They could have won that game, too. So, they might give Iowa State a game. I don't think so because, again, it's going to be at Iowa State. So, all right. Next, and this is the last one of the night, of course. We always talk West Virginia football here as well at the end. If we have a game, we had a bye week last week. So, last game we are going to speak about, boys and girls. 3-2 Oklahoma State Cowboys versus 2-2 West Virginia Mountaineers. BetUS has Oklahoma State at 2.5, and the over/under is 64.5. It's I've already been speaking about this game a ton this show, so I've already kind of got out what I wanted to get out about this, but I'll say some of it again. This game, and I want you guys to know that West Virginia, in their last 10 meetings with Oklahoma State, they are 2-8 in their last 10 meetings, including 3-4 at Boone Pickens Stadium at Oklahoma State. I hate trying to say that. At Oklahoma State, they are 3-4. So it's so tough for us to go into Oklahoma State and steal a win. Again, they've only done it 3 times out of 7 games. And it's Neil Brown against Mike Gundy. Here is the equalizer for tomorrow's game. It's not okay. He said, I think we win between 3 and 10 points, or we lose by 17 or more, and it won't be close. You sound like a Mountaineer fan. I'm telling you, man, we are in such similar situations right now. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that West Virginia has the offense, has one of the top offenses in the Big 12. But it comes down to play calling, and it comes down to execution. And that's 2 big things that have lacked a lot in the first 4 games for West Virginia. And then you look on the other side, and you look at Mike Gundy's Cowboys. I mean, you guys have a great offense, man. You take Alan Bowman he's having a tough time, but the dude can throw the ball. And then you got Ollie Gordon. You got such a solid backfield. If those guys get it going, they are dangerous. But again, on the other side of the ball, on defense, for you guys, you're a little bit sus. You're a little bit suspicious, just like West Virginia. And so we are sitting in a same kind of situation right now where we have no clue what's going to happen tomorrow. I think both fan bases are sitting here like, and this is why you do not bet on West Virginia games. I tell people this all the time. I did it one time, and I'll never do it again because of this situation right here. You never know what West Virginia team you're going to get. And it's so frustrating. So, Cowboys fans, trust me, I understand where you're at. Totally understand it. Dude, we got Garrett Green, C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White. I think the biggest part that we're lacking in is our receiving core. We've got Clement and Preston Fox and Rodney Gallagher and the big tight end, Cole Taylor. But great offense. And unfortunately, it's paired with a high school level defense right now. And I don't understand it. All offseason, they were not clamoring. I would say clamoring. They were just boosting their heads about how great the defense was going to be this year, how great the secondary was going to be. And they have been terrible. So, it's the experts, as I was saying earlier, the experts were saying this was a get-right game for Oklahoma State. Man, hold up. It's a get-right game for both teams. Let's put that out there. If Oklahoma State goes out there and does what they're supposed to do, their offense plays the way they should play. looking at possibly a blowout. But if both teams go out tomorrow and play good football and play the way they're supposed to, this thing could turn out to be a shootout. I think we're in for a really good game tomorrow. That's what I do know. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I just have no idea what the outcome's going to be because I don't know who's going to show up for who. So I don't know. Outlaw said North Dakota State and South Dakota State have cult-like following. Would the Big 12 consider adding them? Man, I would love to. I would absolutely love that move. I think that North Dakota State and I think both. I think they would be fantastic additions. They bring great tradition to the conference. They bring TV ratings could be big. For tomorrow's game, yeah, for sure. It's going to be a really good game. But yeah, I think North Dakota State and South Dakota State would be fantastic ads. Now, would they consider it? I don't know. Brett Yormick, he's been a pretty good representation of the Big 12. He's made good moves for the Big 12. I don't know where his mind would be for those two teams. I feel like, here's my question. Would he bring them both in? Because it's kind of a situation, like if you brought one in, would you have to bring the other one in? And if that was the case, I believe he would. Tyler Christian sending some flex. Thanks, man. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate it so much. Appreciate all the comments. You guys are freaking awesome. If you don't mind, just hit that like button, the thumbs up down at the bottom for me. Thank you so much. Okey pokey chokey state, and I'm a man. I'm 54. We'll choke in Morgantown. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Who's going to show up for which team, you know? And that's kind of been that's why I named this show Who's the King of the Big 12 in week 6. Because the last few weeks, or the last week and then this week, tomorrow will show us a little bit more of like, okay, who's widening the gap a little more in the Big 12. Because last weekend, I mean, again, you got K-State coming out and busting Oklahoma State in the mouth, and then you got Arizona beating Utah without Cam Rising again. But let's put that out, it's still a loss, right? So, and BYU's still rolling. So right now, at this point, going into week 6, who is the king of the Big 12? Is it BYU? Is it Iowa State? Is it still Utah? Is it Kansas State? I mean, dude, it's shaping up to be a very, very interesting year for the Big 12. I can't wait, man. I'm so happy that they added all these teams to the Big 12, and especially competitive teams. It's just fantastic. But I think we are in for an exciting Big 12 finish this year. Outlaw of College Football said, "Who's your team?" Who's my team? My team is West Virginia. My team is West Virginia, my man. So I wish we were the Mountaineers of old. Tyler Christian says, "You think we ever see Dion in Motown, or do you think he leaves Colorado before then?" I don't know. I think we'll see him in Motown for sure. I don't think he's going to be leaving Colorado for at least another probably 2 years, at least. What's his contract? I don't even know what his contract is. Let me look up what his contract is. Deion Sanders contract. So he has a contract of 5-year deal worth up to $29 million, and that's before any bonuses. After year 3, the contract cost for when was that? That was this year, so 5-year. Okay. So, yeah, we'll definitely see him in Morgantown. Well, of course, that's if he still has Colorado playing good football. So, will he ever win a Big 12 title in the Big 12? That's a good question. I don't think so, but again, that's my opinion. So, yeah. Tyler said, yeah, definitely. I didn't know his contracts. Yeah, he's got a 5-year contract, so for sure. All right, so the last thing, I'm gonna Outlaw said, I'm an old school Alabama fan. Roll Tide Roll. Great show. See y'all later. Hey, Outlaw, I appreciate you hopping in here, man. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate the $5 starred comment, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I hope to see you next week. That's another thing. This show is going to be on Wednesdays. I had to do it Friday this week because I couldn't do it Wednesday. I went to a soccer game to watch Lionel Messi against the Columbus Crew. So I couldn't do it Wednesday. Had to do it tonight. So it's going to be on Wednesdays. Just keep in mind, it's going to be on Wednesdays. Same time, 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. But again, Outlaw, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Enjoy tomorrow's games. For the rest of us, I'm going to roll into the final segment here. We're going to go into my predictions. Unfortunately, I'm 10-5 now. I was sitting at 8-2. I was sitting at 8-2 on the season, and last week killed me. I went 2-3, and I'm sitting at 10-5. And I mean, I did not expect Arizona to beat Utah, and I didn't expect I expected K-State to win, but not by that much. But I still chose Oklahoma State to win that. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, to win that game. All right, let's head into my predictions. First game, Texas Tech at Arizona. I have Arizona winning this game against Texas Tech. It's a home game, and that offense is a pretty good offense for Arizona. And I'm going to have Arizona winning this probably. Let me think for a second. I'm going to say 37-28 Arizona. No. Never mind. No, take that back. I'm going to say 27-17 Arizona. Is that what I'm going to say? 27-17? Yeah, I'm going to say 27-17. Is that what I'm going to say? I don't know. All right. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 30-20. 30-20 Arizona. That's my pick. Locking it in. Final prediction. Next one. UCF at Florida. I got UCF winning this one. Again, I said it. They'd probably win by 21. So I'm going to say 40-24 UCF. 40-24. Now, it's in Florida, so I might be completely wrong on that. Gabe said, I got 31-21 Arizona. Yeah, that's a good call. It's at Florida, so UCF might have a tough time scoring, to be honest with you. That's probably why the line is at 1.5. So I might change that. I'm going to say 30. I'm going to say 34. I'm going to say 34-27. No, I don't think Florida's offense is that good. But it's at Florida. That's a deciding factor. So I'm going to say 34-23. That's my final one. Locking it in. 34-23 UCF. Moving on. Third one. Arizona State versus Kansas. It's in Arizona State, but I would I think Kansas bounces back here. I think they get back in the win column. I think they get win number 2. And I'm going to call it 24-21 Kansas. 24-21 Kansas. Iowa State, undefeated Iowa State versus Baylor. Home game for Iowa State against 2-3 Baylor. I think they spank Baylor, and I'm going to say 31-17 Iowa State. Final answer, locking it in. Gabe said, I'm not touching a Florida game. I'm not touching a Florida game, LOL. I'm done with Florida teams. Yeah, buddy. After that Virginia Tech and Miami game, probably got to chalk it up. All right, and the final one, if you go, I got a prediction out on this right now. And in that prediction, I said all the things that I've already said on here. I have Oklahoma State winning this game 35-30. That's my prediction. I'm locking it in. Unfortunately, I don't want to go against our Mountaineers, but I am 35. I think Mike Gundy, I got to pick him over Neil Brown. You know what I mean? And I think that's a safe pick. And yeah, so I have I have Oklahoma State beating West Virginia 35-30. It's my final pick, locking it in. That is it for my predictions. Let's hope I move to a better record. And that is it for today's show. Thank you so much, you guys, for hopping in here. I mean, that's been awesome. This has been the best show yet. I'm changing all the tickers and everything. But yeah, this has been the best show yet. You guys have been awesome. This has been the most comments so far. So yeah, thank you guys. Tune in next week at Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Wednesday at 7 o'clock next week. This time I really am changing. I said it on my last show that last week it was going to be Wednesday. Had technical difficulties, man. Couldn't make it happen. But nonetheless, this has been Matt Thornsberry with the Big 12 Blitz. We love talking college football. We love talking Big 12 college football. Thank you guys for hopping in here and discussing it with me. It's been awesome. Thank you for watching Big 12 Blitz. I'll catch you guys next week on Wednesday. See you later.